Hi VC, I'm back. It's Nico after a couple of weeks, and I have to admit I've been away to a certain degree that I'm so behind on watching you guys' videos. It's not even funny. But this evening I finally had time off, and the first thing that comes into mind is of course spinning a whole bunch of records, popping a beer, cheers, and I will round off the evening by watching your videos. But this video is about my latest acquisitions during the past weeks, and what you heard in the beginning and perhaps here in the background is of course Budgie's self-titled album and the opening track Guts. Now I've shown this before on a cheapo reissue, but today I managed to pick up a 1974 German reissue, and even these are getting hard to find and quite pricey, so I was pleased to pick up this for quite cheap. Yes, on that Rainbow MCA label. Would love to find a UK original dog bone MCA label, but what are that lamp? Sorry about the lighting and sorry about the glare, Vinyl Richie, if you're watching. I do apologize. Well, finally on the record show today I found an album by The Seeds. And of course you all know The Seeds. They are dearly loved in the VC, especially by you American guys and girls. But I really dig The Seeds myself, and this is their second album, A Web of Sound, from 1966. By no means an original. This is a 2013-14 reissue on the GNP Crescendo label. Nice heavyweight vinyl, awesome pressing quality, excellent sounding, and of course if I had found a Seeds original here in Norway I would surely pick it up, but this is a nice placeholder until I eventually find me some original Seeds. Another interesting pickup from today's record show was this 1988 unofficial compilation with the 13th floor elevators, consisting of alternate takes and unexpurred versions from the first album, Psychedelic Sounds. That's the first side. The second side consists of a live recording at the New Orleans club in Austin, Texas from 1966. The Word, I'm Down, Gloria, Monkey Island and Roller Coaster are the tracks from that concert. So it's a nice, even though it's unofficial, it's nice to add some 13th floor elevators to your collection. The album is of course called The Original Sound of the 13th Floor Elevators, and the label is called 13th Hour Records. Definitely an unofficial release, but it will be interesting to listen to. I haven't had a chance to spin it yet, but I will definitely during the course of the evening. Cheers again, my friends. Next up is a band I've featured in my latest videos. I showed my first acquisition by the band in December, and just my previous video I showed the first album, and I'm talking about the band which was called Churchills in Israel, released one heck of a psychedelic masterpiece in 1968, and then they moved to England in 1970 and renamed themselves Jericho Jones and released this fantastic album from 1971 called Junkies, Monkeys and Donkeys. And originals fetch high prices. They signed with A&M Records. This is not an original. It's not even an official reissue. It's a white label, unofficial mid-90s boot. But it sounds magnificent, and this for sure is a nice placeholder, a cheap placeholder until I find the original, because I have to have the original. You can forget about the originals of Churchill's, but both Jericho Jones and their third album, which is more hard and heavy progressive rock, they are within reach when it comes to price. So, if you haven't heard Jericho Jones, the lightning is hopeless under this lamp. Do check him out. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Next up, I found online here in Norway a reissue of the magnificent Dom and their only originally privately released album Edge of Time from 1972. This is a high quality late 90s reissue on Second Battle, and Dom, they were sort of experimental, avant-garde, droney, ambient, minimalistic music, and this is so well, I'm lost for words. It's an excellent album, and this reissue is of high quality, as I mentioned. 2 record sets with the original album. This is not the original album, this is the bonus LP, one-sided, with some bonus tracks from 72 and sort of remix from the 90s, which I'm not too keen on, but the original album with custom labels, it sounds awesome. Probably better than the original, which was a budget private release, but they are almost non-existent, so good luck trying to find an original. But do check out Dom, Edge of Time, if you haven't heard about them. Excellent stuff. Early ambient, droney stuff. I'm on the reissue bag these days to get a massive volume of LPs I want, and I have a supplier who imports all of these newly reissued high quality reissues of bands and holy grails I want. So I snagged this one on a record show in late March. This is of course Message's first album, The Dawn Anew Is Coming, from 1972. And these guys are mostly known for their second album called From Books and Dreams, from 1973, which is a monster album, a masterpiece, showcasing in hard and heavy psychedelia from Germany at that time. But this album is right up there, in my humble opinion, with that album. A little bit softer and perhaps more melodic in style, but strong musicianship and interesting songwriting. Highly, highly recommendable. Both of Message's first 2 albums, they are, in my opinion, masterpieces. Their later output went in a sort of more jazzy, progressive rock direction. A little bit typical for many other bands, but well, next up, another high quality reissue by another German band, and of course an original would be a holy grail, but don't seize on the opportunity to get yourself a high quality reissue, because the originals are scarce and very expensive. Orange Peel and their only album from 1971, reissued by Long Hair. I don't even know if the cover shows on the camera with my bad lighting, not lightning. But this is a wonderful, high quality, as I said, reissue from Long Hair, and as always with an insert with the bio of the band, both in German and English. Always with those custom labels. And what can be said about Orange Peel? Hard and heavy, dreamy, drony, blues rock oriented. They were all over the place with this soul album they released in '71, and I think they're still around, doing annual reunion concerts in their hometown. But do check out Orange Peel, fantastic album. Another one I've shown before, a couple of videos back, a 90s reissue on the Little Wing of Refugees label with alternate cover, but when I saw this Long Hair reissue, I just had to grab it because it has the original artwork, even though in another color. But never mind. This is Da Capo and their only album, sorry, from '72, I think, and it's one of those privately released albums of the day, very obscure, impossible to find an original, and a cheap but high quality reissue such as this, you can't go wrong. Most likely you would never find an original, and if you do, it would be beat to hell. So nice 4-page insert in this Long Hair reissue, worth grabbing for sure. Value for money, I say. And Da Capo, of course, is another one of those early krautrock bands, experimental, but leaning towards British and American sounding bands, but with their own identity as well. So it's a nice album to check out. Next album is very interesting and of course very good. It's a band called Astrix, and this is their only album from 1970. Solid hard rock on this one, many catchy tunes, and this band is famous for participating as studio musicians on many Exploito albums of the day in Germany. And some of these guys also were backing musicians for James Last Orchestra. And the singer from this album is the later famed John Lawton, who continued his career singing for Uriah Heep in the mid-70s. And Astrix released only this self-titled album in 1970 on Decca Records. This is of course a Long Hair reissue with insert and custom labels. In 1971 they changed their name to a more well-known band called Lucifer's Friend, who released a couple of albums, I think 3 or 4 albums. Hard and heavy band which progressed into more progressive and jazz rock landscape. But this album and Lucifer's Friends first 2 albums are must-haves in your collection if you like it hard and heavy. Another reissue before I end with 3 originals. Art, a British psychedelic band who I'm sure you know, released their only album Supernatural Fairy Tales in 1967. and they later morphed into Spooky Tooth, which are well known as well. And this is a high competent, very enjoyable, typical British psychedelic album. This is a Tapestry Records reissue. I'm not too keen on those Tapestry reissues. Thick vinyls and good quality covers, but too often I find Tapestry Records pressings a little bit flawed, either off-center pressings or crackly and popping, and many times they are scratched, even sealed from the factory. But this is fortunately a nice copy, a nice sounding copy, so it's a nice cheap alternative to an expensive originals. But mind you, this album has been reissued many times through the years, and you can find early 70s reissues for almost nothing, so might as well opt for an early 70s island pressing instead. Well, I'm on to the last 3 albums. Perhaps I'm rushing through, but I'm eager to drink more beer and spinning more records, and of course watching you guys' videos, which I've been missing out on. But just yesterday, what stared back at my face in my local record shop was this one. And I think it's been shown in the VC before, but I've never seen it myself in the wild here in Norway. But it makes sense to find these because it's a cutout, otherwise it's near mint, it's unplayed. But here in Norway in the late 60s and early 70s, many of the cutout records were dumped here in the Scandinavian market, so you can find many vertigo swirls from the UK or Germany. You can find a lot of island pressings, and of course a lot of US releases such as the Litter, Emerge, the Litter, and this is no exception, but always as a cutout. Well, enough about the record and on to the music. Highway Robbery is above average, competent, hard and heavy rock from the early 70s. This one is from 1972, and it's the band's only release. But Don Francisco, the drummer and vocalist, and Michael Stevens, the guitar player, both were in the band Atlee. And Atlee released one album called Flying Ahead in 1970, which is a competent, very good hard blues rock album as well. So I need to get an original of Atlee, of course. But this is solid all the way through, almost all the way through. It has one or two clunkers, a couple of ballady songs, which I guess some corporate head of RCA decided to put on the record for hit potential. But this is an original on the RCA Dynaflux, which you have seen many times before. Always fun to do this. And I think Dynaflux has gotten a lot of undeserved flack, because I think at least all of the Dynafluxes I have in my collection, they sound awesome, and I have never had any problems with bad sound quality or warping or anything. So I think I dig Dynaflux. Well, next to last is a holy grail, of course, and I have to say cheers to that. Found in the wild here in Norway, and it's a record I've been searching for years. One of my first ones when I got into the krautrock genre years ago. I have to flip the record, sorry. I have been advertising for that record many times on different sites, including Facebook and some record sale sites there. And just the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I advertised for the record and instantly got a message, a personal message, a PM, from a guy I to some degree know, who lives in the neighboring city just half an hour drive away. He said, I have one. Do you want to buy it? And I said, heck yes. And I got into my car, went over there and bought the damn thing. It wasn't cheap, but it's near mint and it's from 1972. It's the second pressing, but that's why I could afford it. It's the second pressing from 1972, the year after it was released. It was released in 1971. But it's Hairy Chapter's second album called Can't Get Through. Wow, this is a hard-hitting mother beep. And it's in pristine shape. You never see this album with the lamination intact and that gloss. Then the same for the record. It's unplayed. No spindle marks, no marks on the record. Man, I paid my price, or rather his price, and I've been blissful ever since. So, there you are, Hairy Chapter's second album, Can't Get Through, a heavy exercise in humbuckered, distorted guitars, rumbling bass, thunderous drums and growling vocals. This is a fantastic hard hitter. If there's one record from this video you should go and check out immediately, it's Hairy Chapter's second and last album, Can't Get Through. And look at that cover art. Blood vessels and a heart. Awesome. And the way to tell this is a second pressing is because it has the colored Bacillus label. Bacillus, of course, was a record company started in the late 60s or early 1970. They released 9 LPs, I think, before they were scooped up by Bellophone Records, which reissued these albums immediately. But if you want to find a white Bacillus label copy, well, then you have to pay up. But the others are not too cheap, but not too expensive either. Well, let me check for time. One more album and I'll let you go, and I will go myself. It's an album I've had from before. Aunt Mary's first album, the original Scandinavian pressing from 1970 on Polydor. And what's special about this album is the cover and the condition of the album itself. I have never encountered a more pristine copy in my life. When you find these, which you rarely do, they are always full of ringwear and beat to shit, because this is a glossy cover, as you can see, but without lamination. So they are always well worn, and they rarely turn up at all. But this is a nice specimen indeed. So, my old beat to shit copy is for sale if you're interested. No, it's not beat to shit, but it's got the standard shelfware, but it plays BG, and the cover is without split, so well, never mind. That's what I had to show for this video. I hope you enjoyed my showings, and I will certainly enjoy watching your videos later this evening and catch up on comments and everything. So I wish you a nice evening further, and I will kick back and relax and spin some more records. See you later. And by the way, thanks to all you new subscribers. You pushed me over the 400 subs mark. I really appreciate that. So please drop me a line or click those like or dislike buttons, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.